That's the chair for PPRTA, and he needs a position to be part of the chair of the PPRTA committee. That's the direction we're going in.
That I just heard about today as well.
I mean, I'm sure we started before. Yeah, David actually started it, but it makes sense.
You give me 2 minutes notice, buddy.
I know. I see that we are on. Okay, there we go. I'm calling the February 12, 2020 PPRTA Board of Directors regular meeting in session. Seeing that we do have a quorum here, I have a message from Mr. Williams indicating that he will not be here at the start of the meeting, but will be here as soon as he can. And so with that, item number 2 is approval of the agenda. May I have a motion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Being none, that carries. Item number 3, public comment period for items not on the agenda. We have a large group here. Is there anybody who wants to make a public comment? We have a large group of people who are shy and don't want to make a public comment, so we will pass that. Item number 4 is appointment and reappointment of board members and selection of board officers. Mr. Sonnenberg.
Good afternoon. The PPRTA Board bylaws prescribes that each director shall be identified in writing annually by his or her appointing party and shall hold such office from January 1 to December 31 of each appointed year. We have received written confirmation from all 5 member governments of their appointments of their directors. Those are in your packet. They are the city members are the same with the 3 primary and the 2 alternates. County this year has added 2 alternates, Commissioner Vanderwerf and Commissioner Bremer, to the primary commissioners of Williams, Waller, and Gonzalez. Manitou is Mayor Graham. Green Mountain Falls is Tyler Stevens. And Rama is Mayor Carpenter with alternate Turner Smith. So we've received written confirmation from all 5, so the board is now legally seated.
And that is good news. I commend Mayor Graham and the people of Manitou Springs for being official last month compared to the rest of us.
So the second item that the board needs to do today to comply with its bylaws is to select its 3 officers. The chair this year will need to be a county director, and the vice chair will need to be a City of Colorado Springs director, and then there's the board secretary.
So, Mr. Waller.
I move to nominate Commissioner Gonzalez as chair of the PPRTA board. Second.
Second from whom? Oh, Mr. Stevens. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There being none, we can switch seats.
Well,
Oh, we're not going to do the chair?
Well, no, I'm giving
Vice chair?
him, he is now the chair.
yeah, the chair,
Oh.
Commissioner Gonzalez, the chair, will now entertain a motion for vice chair.
That was a fast change, okay.
Mr. Chair? Yes. I would like to nominate myself. However, the bylaws prohibit that.
Oh, you've been chair of everything else.
I know, but these guys won't let me do it. So in lieu of that, I would like to nominate Councilmember Wayne Williams as vice chair.
And I would like,
Director Avila.
Is it?
Oh.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I started talking.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
up.
Director Avila.
You're up. He
Am I up?
called on
You're
you.
So I would like to nominate Councilmember Wayne, not Wayne Williams, I'm David Geislinger. And the reason is, I want to give the reason, is that since David has come onto council, he has been wholly committed to council, to the Utilities Board of Directors, and moreover to PPRTA. I want to make sure that he's able to finish what he started in this process. I think that he is a really great spokesperson for advocating for what our city needs are as part of this board, and does work with the rest of the board really well. And more than anything is that he's here. He's here consistently. He does have a part-time job, and I know that he'll pull all-nighters and still come to a city council meeting. And he's very prepared. And so I want to keep that consistency going, and truly, really, everyone think about that and keeping David Geislinger as a vice chair. Thank you.
So, Mr. Chair,
Yes, Director Waller.
yeah, just a little point of order here. I don't think we had a second on Councilmember Williams' nomination.
I have to defer to the attorney on Robert's rules. Do I have to wait to a failure of a second before there's another motion?
So I think we should just take the motions in order. We
Yep.
have two motions. So we have a first motion by Mr. Stevens for Mr. Williams as vice chair. Is there a second? And if there's a second for that or not?
Okay,
Go
so
with that first.
then we're seeing if there is a second for Commissioner, or for Director Williams.
Second?
Okay, so I do have a motion and a second. So then, now, any comments by the board
Well,
before,
I think you nominate both of them. And then
Can we make both?
vote on them.
I have no, honestly,
Yeah,
I'm looking at
that's-
Rick, because Rick might have a better
Yeah.
idea of Robert's rules than I do.
Yeah, so
Because we don't follow.
I guess
we
Commissioner,
don't-
Director Waller.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I believe the way it should work here is, we have one nomination on the table that's been seconded.
Okay.
We have a second nomination that has not been seconded yet.
Okay, then we will discuss after all the
Right. And I would actually, quite frankly, like to, once there's the nomination seconded, hear from the one candidate that's here to determine if this is something he even wants to do. He may be tired of it. You know, quite frankly, I got tired of Rick Sonnenberg, so no, I'm kidding. I loved working with Rick
So Rick,
tremendously.
should we finish with all the
Yes.
candidates?
Yes, I'd recommend
Okay,
that.
so then I'm looking for, if there is a second for Director Geislinger. Okay, so I have a second for that. Any other motions for candidates for Vice Chair? There's only one other option, I guess.
Mr. Chair.
Okay, seeing none.
I can get pieces of, if you choose to have a secret ballot, I can run out and get some copy paper and bring it in if you want to have a secret ballot.
Well, we should hear if
Well, it's-
Director Geislinger wants the nomination, first of all.
So we'll open it up to discussion. I'll start off with Director Geislinger.
That's a weighted word, once and tired.
Yeah.
What I would say is that in one respect, you're right. You get tired, you want to go on, and you don't want to do this. On the other side, we have at City Council, as of yesterday, and it's something that has been building, but yesterday, during a work session, it came to a head, and we recognized that Colorado Springs need, as one of 5 members of this group, needs to be more proactive going forward to look at what PPRTA 3 needs, how it's going to function best, how we are going to go about recruiting more of the jurisdictions, hopefully, to be in here. What does governance look like? How are we going to do maintenance of effort? Things along those lines. We will be having a work session, we talked about it with members of the CAC that are present, in March. Everybody's welcome to come in. We want there to be transparency. This has worked extraordinarily well, but we are using the same sorts of presumptions that led to PPRTA 1 almost 20 years ago, and we need to look forward. So I do think that I will be extraordinarily involved, and I think the consensus is, I would state that the consensus of the council members I've talked to is that they are interested in looking at that, and that while there is a division at council, I can represent that the consensus of council members I've talked to would like me to serve as assistant coming up, as opposed to Mr. Williams. So the answer is yes, I do want to do it, but with the,
Yes, to our attorney.
So just as a point of clarification for the secret ballot is generally prohibited in an open meeting,
Okay.
but an exception to that is actually voting for officers of the local public body. So we are allowed to vote in secret ballots. So just in case anybody was going to ask me that question, there's your answer.
Thank you.
Okay. Good question, whoever asked that. Any other,
Double-checked it even.
are there any comments or discussions from anybody, any of the other directors at this point, for or against any of the candidates? Did does anybody have any knowledge of Director Williams submitting comments they'd like read?
The only thing I'd contribute is having his history with the RDA. He's probably second only to me in terms of that longevity and ability to see through and really bring that history forward and hopefully get our third iteration of really strong passage for this very successful endeavor. So I'm very interested in making sure that we continue that history. And if there's fine-tuning later, that's where IGA discussions happen, but I don't think it's at the time of reauthorization that we rock that boat.
Anybody else? Okay, so I guess we'll have, yes, Director Waller.
Yeah, and I would just, I think we need somebody to obviously fairly count the votes here, too. This hasn't happened, but I believe it should be 2 people, and I would like to suggest that Mr. Sonnenberg and Ms. Ivy count the votes.
I think it's appropriate.
I think that was reasonable and appropriate as well. So any other comments? My only comment here is I kind of I guess kind of short notice that there was not consensus at the city. So, which is fine. I'm just saying, we had done this, and, you know, that's which is fine. I'm just saying it was kind of a last-minute thing here.
Can I make a, it's not that there's a lack of consensus per se, it's that there is a healthy debate within the city about where things are going, and so this is reflective of the healthy debate within the city. And there is not a conflict per se, from my perspective at least, between Mr. Williams and myself.
Okay. All right. Thank you for the clarification. That's
No,
helpful.
I just-
That's helpful. Okay, so could, Rick, do you want to discuss how we should do this vote?
Unless Jennifer Ivey wants to, I'd say mark your ballot, fold it in half, and then I will come around and Jennifer and I will tabulate them at her chair. And please don't put the voter's name on. You're voting for one of the 2 candidates. Of course, a voter can also be a candidate. Are we, has everyone
Has
voted?
everybody completed their
Okay.
sheet?
I'll make the rounds. I'm not a magician, so I'm not.
It's like, I see we have our distinguished mayors on the one side.
It's Mayor's Row.
Yeah, it's just, I came up with this kind of conflict. I know, but you know what I mean. Usually these are
Well, we've been trying to figure it out.
I know, I was like, so I'm like, oh, great.
No, I mean, and it really knows it doesn't reflect.
I didn't realize that.
No, no. Thank you. But that's what I would suggest. Just wait till Mr. Williams comes out. I'll make the motion.
All right.
Mr. Williams comes.
On a vote of 5-3, Councilmember Geislinger will be our vice chair.
Okay. Congratulations.
Our
All right, I believe we're now then to item 5 for approval, ratification of actions from January 8th, 2020 regular meeting.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Their third officer is board
Oh,
secretary.
that's correct. And we normally have the same person nominated and elected, correct? Yes, Director Avila.
I would like to nominate Rick Sonnenberg as our secretary.
I have a motion and a second. Anybody else want to fight over this prestigious position?
3 signatures a year.
Secret ballot. No. Okay. I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
Thank you.
That passes unanimously. All right, now item 5.
And this is a recommended action by our attorney, Jennifer Ivey, to have a motion to ratify all motions that the board took at the January 8, 2020 regular board meeting.
Absolutely, and this is because we did not have all the letters in?
Yes.
Right, we were missing 1 or 2 last time?
Yes.
Right. So it would be a motion to ratify all the actions taken in the January meeting.
Do I have a second?
Second?
I have a motion and a second to ratify the actions from the January 8 meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That passes unanimously. Item 6, for approval of the minutes from January 8th.
We approve the minutes from January 8th.
Second?
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from January 8th, 2020 regular meeting. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed, say nay. That passes unanimously. All righty, our Citizens Advisory Committee monthly report.
Good afternoon, Jim Godfrey, Chair of the CAC. Congratulations on the new officers. So I'd like to report out on Wednesday, the February the 5th meeting. Get my stuff together here. So the city of Colorado Springs brought together 7 contracts. Good discussion on all of those contracts. And ultimately, the CAC recommends approval for all of the city's requests. I had a little discussion on a couple of them, but the city did a great job of answering our questions, and so no issues there. The city also had a request for a line item transfer. Basically, they're cleaning up some of the older projects that are near completed, and then moving that money over to projects that are underway or to be scheduled for this year. There's a table in your packet that describes from money coming from where and going to where. I would just like to point out that one of those transfers on Barnes Road is a fairly substantial amount of $1.6 million. That kind of raised the level of discussion in the CAC just a little bit. The city feels like, the city told us they feel like that they went out for bid, they got some good bids, and they had one company that was just lower than everybody else. We had the discussion about, is he underbidding just to get the work, and they informed us that they have done their due diligence and they feel confident with that bid, and that even with this $1.6 million transfer, they have funds sufficient to complete the scope of that project as currently designed. So recommendation is for approval on that line item transfer as well. The county came forward with West Colorado Avenue and a request to increase the budget for that, and a real good discussion. Just as a reminder, the cost of this project is split between, the county is acting as lead, but it's split between the city, county, and Manitou. And so while the county's submitting this request for additional funds to be split among those entities. And I'd also just say that it was discussed and brought up that this was never presented as a fully designed project from the beginning, that this was a design build almost, and as it's gone along, things have been discovered and this kind of stuff. But the presentation assured us that they think this is the last one. There is a table that shows in your packet that shows what particular line items in the budget have changed and by how much. And so that was very helpful. We appreciated that visual and that a piece of additional information. So in the 4 projects the county recommended or asked for approval on, West Colorado Avenue was one of those. They're also asking for, excuse me, and so I would point out that one of the contracts at the time of our meeting is the bids have been received, but because of negotiations and process with the city and with the state, CDOT, and some federal funds, they cannot announce the exact amount or the contractor at this time. And Jennifer can address that appropriately. She answered our questions and concerns about that. So rather than to be determined, it's really to be announced. I think once they get the paperwork done and the I's dotted and T's crossed, they'll make that announcement. The county came forward with a line item transfer to complete Meridian Road Extension Project. And that discussion ended up us recommending approval for that line item transfer and the Meridian Road extension as well. And I think the maintenance of effort reports, we did look at all of those. All the cities, all the member governments were in compliance. So that's a good thing. So we recommend approval of the member government's maintenance of effort reports. And then one thing I would like to just point out to the members of the board, the CAC has an outreach subcommittee. That subcommittee it plays a role in our website and any other outward-facing public comment pertaining to the CAC. And we were down to just 2 members of that committee. We had another volunteer to be on that committee. And so in efforts to the practice of being proactive with the city and other things as we start into the messaging and the discussion on RTA 3, it would be my request to the board that when possible and feasible that we let the CAC know when those public meetings are. We would like to be part of that, involved in those discussions, so that as citizens in our own constituent and groups and networks that we run in, that we can be part of that narrative. We think we've got a great story to tell as a body, and we want to be part of that if we can. So I just encourage that if it's feasible and possible and legal, we would like to be part of those discussions. And I think that's it.
All right, thank you for the report. Any comments?
I have a question.
Yes, Director Geisinger.
And it's not for you. It's a good meeting, and as I indicated, we certainly, from the city standpoint, would welcome your participation. And it is.
Yeah, he does.
I'm, again, not talking into it. We, of course, welcome CAC's participation with the city process and look forward to that. I do have a question for Mayor Graham. And the question, just to look at the concerns, since I do know what the city's position is vis-a-vis the West Colorado Avenue issue, and I was assured by Beverly that from her perspective things are okay. With these overruns, is Manitou running into any issues with regard to its PPRTA funds, or are you okay with where things are right now?
Yeah, I believe we're okay.
Thank you. Okay.
Any other comments? This does need a motion for acceptance.
I move to approve or accept.
Okay, to accept the, okay, I have a motion and a second to accept the monthly report. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That passes unanimously. Thank you. Item 8, great news, right? Good news? Great news? We'll see.
Spectacular.
Good afternoon. In December, we received $10,792,000 of sales and use tax compared to the budget of $9.2 million. So we were ahead by almost $1.6 million. And year-to-date, we're ahead 11.8 million. So just really did a great job there. So 11.8% budget overage in that category. But compared to last year, then on page 2, we were ahead almost, 7,229,000, or almost 7%. So it was a great year, and we budgeted $102 million for 2020. So probably by April, we'll have the discussion at the board as to whether to increase that to, I don't know, 106 million or something. But we'll have 2 more months worth of sales and use tax for January and February, so we can kind of see if what the mood is of the consumer by then. So, are there any questions?
Any questions?
Just, can you address the situation vis-à-vis our reimbursement of CDOT?
Oh, so for CDOT, we are able to pay off the 10 million this year, and we'll still have 1.5 million of additional capital dollars carry over from 2019 to 2020 mid-year budget amendment, $5 million worth of maintenance funds, so the overage will roll into next year's amended budget, and 1.4 of transit. So really, really good.
Very good news. All right, that was for information only, so we'll move on to item 9. 2020 Capital Maintenance and Public Transportation Contracts, 9A, City of Colorado Springs. Mr. Chavez.
Good afternoon, Board. Mike Chavez, City Engineering. We've got 8 items for your review and approval, hopefully. First one is we have a cost share contract for $100,000. That's where people can contact the city, and if they participate in the maintenance, repair of their curb gutter sidewalk, 50/50, they basically move up on the list, and that's capped at $100,000. That operations does. And the company is HCD. We didn't have that information last week. Next item is a task order-based contract for Basis Partners for RTA work for materials and testing and inspections, and that's falls under our $200,000 per task order with a $2 million cap. Next item is a change order for the architect on the Southwest Pedestrian Bridge, and that is about $13,000 change order, and that's just for some anticipated expenses that they'll be submitting for as they been finishing out the design. This is capped at the $4.6 million of RTA money, which we and Rick are watching to make sure we don't exceed that. So this falls within that, below that limit still. Next item, we have a change order for SEH, a consultant, and they will be providing design services during construction on the Barnes Road widening. So if there's any issues that they need to address, they'll be basically on call to address any design concerns. And then we have on the Emergency Bridge Fund, we are asking for $250,000 of RTA emergency bridge funds to supplement a general fund project that the city is doing. It's replacing the Cascade Bridge over Cheyenne Run. That's over there by the Idlewild School. So the bulk of that is being covered by general city funds, but we need a little bit more of RTA just to supplement the contract. Next item is some additional utility and geotechnical design on the Circle Bridge replacement project. And on this one, the change order is, what is that? Can't do math, but basically $25,000 of it is RTA funds, and the rest of the design change order, $91,000, will be paid for by CSU. And then the last one is we're using city safety and traffic operation money to replace a signal at Chelton and Santa Rosa. That is a large stormwater project. That's the entrance to the Chapel Hills Mall on the west side. So we're going to be redoing that intersection and upgrading the drainage, but we're also going to be replacing the signal while we're there, just to save costs and just do everything at one time instead of disrupting a couple times. So that's being funded by one of the traffic programs. And that's all I have for now.
All right, thank you. Any questions? No questions? Okay, I'll accept a motion for this in part or in whole.
I move to approve item 9A.
All right, I have a motion and a second to approve item 9A. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That passes unanimously. Item 9B, City of Colorado Springs Capital Projects line item transfers.
Okay, so what the city is requesting is we've completed several A-list projects, and there is leftover funds in those. So we're moving out the majority of it. We're going to leave a little bit in there since they're in the warranty period. We don't want to close them out in case something comes up, but we do want to use the bulk of the money on other projects. So we're moving money out of the Academy over Cottonwood Bridge replacement, the Enchanted Circle Bridge replacement, Dublin Road improvements, and Centennial reconstruction. We're moving funds out of those completed projects into Galley Road Bridge, the Black Forest widening, the West Fillmore Bridge, and there's a culvert bridge by Coronado High School that we're replacing, and we needed $334 for the Old Ranch Road to pay off that, and so we're moving money from those completed projects into these bridge projects, basically to be able to continue on the design of those.
Any comments or questions? Mr. Vice Chair.
Just one comment is, so in essence, the 4 projects came in under what you expected so that you have now money freed up for these other 4 projects.
Yes.
That's good news. Well done.
Mr. Director Avila.
I'm sorry. Yeah, and the completion of the A projects.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. Great. Thank you, Mike.
Any more questions or a motion?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve item 9B. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Items 9C, El Paso County Capital Projects line item transfer. Ms. Irving.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Board of Directors, Jennifer Irvin, County Engineer. I'm joined by Brett Hartzell, the Project Manager for Colorado Avenue, and I just would like to request that we maybe talk to not only the line item transfer for Colorado Avenue, but also the contract amendment at the same time. It kind of makes sense. So just wanted to introduce the item. As you know, Colorado Avenue is a joint project being completed by El Paso County, the City of Colorado Springs, Manitou Springs. I think that this was a key project in the reauthorization of PPRTA, and so we are happy that we are winding it down. But we have a request today for a line item transfer for approximately $3 million, and then a contract amendment for $3.8 million. As you know, this project has been, we have found a lot of things unexpected with this project, and we have treated this like a design-build project. So we are coming to you today, hopefully, to close out the project with a final contract amendment. And as we are finalizing all of the work, we anticipate that we will be continuing to work with all the jurisdictions. So we had a great ribbon cutting at the end of last year for a substantial completion, and we're very happy that we're starting to close this one out. So I brought Brett here today to talk to some of the major items and to answer any detailed questions that you may have.
All right, thank you for your time. So the last time I was up here was December of 2018. At that time, we tried to forecast all the future costs and all the known costs we had on the project, so we could try to incorporate that into just one contract amendment, one line item transfer. But we got close. We got all the way through substantial completion and now to February 2020. But we do need some additional funds to close out the project. As I mentioned, we're close. We got through substantial completion, but there's some more additional money that we need to get some additional items done. I did provide kind of a breakdown of some of those key categories. I try to categorize all the different items into just a couple different groups. So there's not just an abundance of specific items. So those categories are additional asphalt for $250,000, extended performance. That's just the cost of the project going, extended. Property electric service tie-ins, adjacent property work, landscape and irrigation work, some miscellaneous construction costs. This kind of includes a lot of smaller items such as fence relocations, adding fence, grading, that kind of stuff. Ridge Road, Amity Springs Plaza, CSU/water line and additional costs, water quality pond, quantity overruns, then force account and some final payment items. And that's final payment items. That includes some of the items that we paid partial amounts already. We haven't paid the full percentage, such as traffic signals and that kind of stuff, where we pay a percentage, but until it's fully functional, we don't release all of it. I provided a brief breakdown of each of these in the contract amendment document, which will kind of help explain some of these, but I'm also up here too to answer any questions you might have specifically about that.
Any questions?
I'd just like to add that it's been a great project working with all of the staffs from the City of Colorado Springs and Manitou Springs. This isn't an easy project. I think it's probably one of the most difficult projects on the PPRTA 2 extension list, and our collaboration with the other jurisdictions really made sure that we were able to get this project done, and I think something to be very proud of.
I have a question. So for transparency purposes, because as a year and a half ago when we approved the last overage, I wanted to make sure on the public record what was the original assessed cost for this, and what are we at now?
So the original estimated project budget, as this was originally identified, was $12.178 million. And at this point, I think we are at, for PPRTA funding, total.
I don't know if I have it broken out. I've got just the total. Let's see.
I think it's pretty close to $35 million, Commissioner.
All right, thank you. All right, any other questions? Director Avila.
I'm just curious if we could share some of the interesting things that you found on that project.
Sure,
because
so I'll stick to some of the more recent ones since...
oh, tell the old ones. Not everybody's been here, right?
All right, let's see. So we had to we had to demolish buildings. We had asbestos lines, asbestos in buildings. We had tires in the creek. We had flooding events. We had an abundance of unknown utility lines. We found some just months ago when we were finishing the water line. We found a large culvert. I'm talking 4 feet wide, so then we had to figure out where that went. Also, just property acquisition has not been easy. There's a lot of design rework that has to go into that. And then there's a lot of phasing, too. When we don't have all the property acquisition, but we can't wait until we get all that, there's additional phasing you have to take, additional steps that we'll have to try to overcome.
Boulders the size of cars.
Rock, a lot of rock down there, too. So we're excavating, then just, rather than getting scoopfuls with the excavator, you're getting inches. You're just tearing it to scrape. So that really slows down the progress, too. A couple of different times we found contaminated groundwater, so then we had to stop and get that tested and figure out what do we do with that. You name it, I think we've come across it.
Thank you. I
Except
thought
for
you were persistent.
Except for Indian burial grounds. I think that's the one thing we didn't find. in
Oh,
there.
wow.
Even that, thankfully. Yeah.
Mr. Vice Chair.
And thank you for sharing that. I think I've had conversations with Mr. Easton on the telephone, on the, by exchange of email. And I do think that this opportunity, this provides an opportunity going forward to take a look at how we handle estimates, projects, design-build projects. I think that we are being proactive doing that because both the county and the city are actually expending funds now to figure out what does PPRTA 3 look like. So we can look back and say, doggone it, we really underestimated this, or we can use this as an opportunity to look forward to say, how do we do this better? And so thank you for your sharing with one another, and I'm sure we can come up with something that going forward would be more productive. So thanks.
Well said, Mr. Vice Chair. Any other comments or questions?
Would you like me to go ahead and present the other county contract items?
Yes.
Okay. The other item that we have today, sorry, I'm trying to go paperless.
Well done.
We'll see. The other items that we have today, another unique item are, let me scroll, sorry. I'll just stop talking. The other unique item that we have is our Meridian Road Extension and New Meridian 24 project. As our chair of the CAC mentioned, we still have a to be announced for that contractor. So we've been waiting for CDOT to concur with our recommendation for award for about a month now. And I want to make sure that if we receive that we're not waiting another month to come back to the CAC on this item. So we did have 3 bids. We have a lowest and best value bid that we have determined is adequate, and so and that project is within the contract amount. The total project is about $8 million, and we are asking for $3.4 million of PPRTA. The other sources of funding for that project were county road and bridge funds, and then also federal funds for that project. So we would like to go ahead and move forward with that amount of the $3.4 million and come back and let you know who exactly that successful contractor is. We just don't want to break the rules for CDOT and announce that award without having their concurrence. So that's the first item. And then the second item, or the third item, is Mark Shuffle South. We are working to finalize that project and close out all of those CDPH&E stormwater compliance permits. So we are asking for a contract amount, change order of about $280,000 to close that one out. And then finally, our 2020 aggregate contract for $80,000. That is for the materials for graveling that we use on our unimproved or gravel roads out in eastern El Paso County and northern El Paso County and western El Paso County. So we are taking a list of our graveling projects to our Board of County Commissioners here in the next couple months. But this is traditionally about $80,000 is how much we've spent of PPRTA funds over the last few years for our gravel roads.
Okay, thank you very much. And for clarification, so for item 9C, that is the line item transfer for only the West Colorado, and then item D, is that just Meridian Ranch and the graveling, or is that?
Item D is contract for the Meridian Road Extension project, and that is for the $3.4 million with the contractor to be announced. The West Colorado Avenue contract amendment for about $3.8 million, Mark Shuffle Road South for $280,000 change order, and then a new contract for the materials for our 2020 aggregate of $80,000.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, so unless there's any more questions, so we'll be voting on 9C first, which is just the line item transfer for West Colorado.
I move approval of 9C.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Nay. That passes 7-1. Item 9D.
I move approval of item 9D.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. This is all together for all the projects, correct? Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Nay. That passes 7-1.
Thank you for your consideration today.
All right, item 10, other reports, City of Colorado Springs Transit Services Monthly Update.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Craig Blewett, Transit Services Manager with the City of Colorado Springs. Our monthly update report is in your agenda packet. Just a couple comments on it. In terms of our local routes, our fixed route bus service, comparing December 2019 to the previous year, December 2018, we saw about a 4.7% increase in ridership. There was one more weekday in December 19 compared to December 18, and that can explain part of the ridership increase. But as I noted last month, we did see an increase of 4.2% in our ridership, fixed route bus, during the whole year of 2019. I'll have a couple more comments on that at the end. The ADA paratransit service, we saw a 1.3% increase, and most of that can probably be explained by the additional weekday. We have considerably more riders on weekdays than we do on Saturdays on the ADA paratransit service. Vanpool, about a 10% decrease, 9.8% decrease, but there was an increase in the boardings per revenue service hour. So again, we right-size the number of vans making the trip to make sure our vans are full, no matter how many passengers we go in that particular month or particular day. On the projects, the 2045 Regional Transit Plan and Specialized Transportation Coordination Plan are complete. They were approved by the PPACG Board last month, and they're now available to see on our website. So if you'd like to take a look at those, you may. And then finally, the North Nevada Avenue Transit Connectivity Study. We did have a public open house on January 29th. Very well attended, great turnout. Got a lot of input, and we are looking on how to incorporate that input into the options going forward. Just a couple more comments on ridership. Director Geislinger, you had questions, I think, over the last couple months on explanations for increase in ridership. And in particular, what role did our improved access to bus stops play in that? And so we did complete our analysis on that, and indeed, improved access to bus stops, I think, did play a role, but it's really a matter of a number of things rather than just one or two big things. So in terms of improved access to bus stops, the number of riders with disabilities increased at 20% of the stops where we improved access. So that's a good sign. There are a lot of reasons to improve access to bus stops. That's one of them, and it looks like we met that goal. But also, I think our college student pass program has really helped our ridership. It's really great participation from the students at Pikes Peak Community College, UCCS, and Colorado College, and that is increasing. Our 15-minute frequency bus routes have also seen great ridership. The Manitou Incline route ridership was very good last year. And, we added some service. So we added service to the Pikes Peak Community College Northern Campus and Rampart Campus, Northern Hospitals, UC Health and Children's Hospital. Saturday evening service was added last fall, and some other off-peak improvements were added last year. And, our focus on good on-time performance is key. If you look at surveys of bus riders, system reliability is one of the top things they look for in terms of a good service. And we have focused on that. We have very good on-time performance. And then finally, we also have a good marketing program. So our marketing program overall in terms of Mountain Metro Transit, but we have had a focus on young people and seniors as well. So our marketing program seems to be contributing. So I think it's probably a combination of all those things can take credit for the ridership we've seen, increased ridership we've seen this past year. So with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Any questions? Director Avila.
Not really questions, just a comment. It's just amazing how it's improved so much, or how we're moving forward. And I just want to let everybody know that I follow Mountain Metro on Twitter. And it's so great because I get all the notifications, the alerts, like instantly on what's going on, what buses are down, what buses are up, if we're having a 2-hour delay. And given the way the weather has been lately, I think that MMT has done a masterful job in keeping up with that, all those snow mounds and stuff like that. So thank you so much, Craig. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, and we've had a big increase in our followers, both on Twitter and Facebook, and that's a great way to communicate with our customers. Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you, and that was for information only. So item 10B, maintenance of effort reports.
Rick Sonnenberg here. As the board is aware, the Pikes Peak RTA establishing IGA requires what's been shortened to, as a phrase, maintenance of effort provision. Specifically, the quote in the IGA is, it is the intent of the parties that funding from the PPRTA will not be used to substitute for or reduce Colorado Springs funding to the existing transit system or to substitute for or reduce any party's funding for maintenance activities. Of course, that means roadway maintenance. So each year, the 5-member governments submit their maintenance of effort reports. The 5 that were submitted this year were submitted to the CAC last week. The CAC reviewed them and found all 5 to be in compliance. I had double-checked the 2004 base year amount that was claimed by each of the 5-member governments. Of course, it's 2008 for RAMA. And I confirmed that the 2004 base year figures that were shown were correct. So the comparison between 2020 and 2004 showed that all 5-member governments were spending at least as much on the applicable categories as they were spending in 2004. So the CAC found that all 5 were in compliance, and so that's the recommendation of the board, is if you so choose to approve a motion declaring that all 5 member governments' maintenance of effort reports are in compliance with the provision.
All right, thank you. Any comments or questions prior to a motion? Seeing none, may we have a motion?
I move approval of the maintenance of effort reports.
Any second? I have a motion and a second to approve the maintenance of effort reports. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That passes unanimously. Item 10C, City of Colorado Springs Monthly Change Order and Property Acquisition Report. Mr. Chavez.
This is an informational item, and if there's any questions, I'll entertain them. And I also did want to, if there's no questions, I have one comment.
Could you point out the one? No. Everybody's seen the report. I don't think I can read any of that, but any questions? Okay, proceed.
Okay, so at the CAC meeting last week, I did mention that we have a quarterly report that all the governments give, and then the city and the county have been giving new quarterly reports on the status of the A-list projects, and we just wanted to combine those two so that we just have one, and just wanted to just run that by the board and make sure they're okay with it. And I think Rick and I are kind of planning on doing that, but we just want to make sure.
Any concerns or questions?
No, wonderful.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
So that would start with the March monthly cycle of CAC and board.
Okay, thank you. Did you have some? Okay. All right, moving along. Item 11, executive session if necessary. Our turn. Ms. Ivy?
Yeah, so I would like to hold an executive session in accordance with the Colorado Open Meetings Law under Sections 24.6, 402, 4B, and 24.6, 402, 4E for the purpose of determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiation, developing strategy for negotiations, and instructing negotiators in connection with and conferencing with an attorney to receive legal advice on specific legal issues regarding proposed legislation.
I move we go into executive session.
Second?
I have a motion and a second to enter into executive session. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That passes unanimously.
And just for the record, while folks are clearing, we will be giving legal advice during the executive session. Therefore, no further recording needs to be made of the executive session. Uh-oh. All right. Vice Chair.
He would have won.
Waiting for, do we have the audio back on?
Yep.
Okay.
I move we come out of executive session.
I have a motion and a second to come out of executive session. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. That passes unanimously. All righty. To our attorney,
Yeah,
could you describe what just happened?
No.
No, I mean, just that we came out of executive session.
We
then.
came out of executive session. We did not make any decisions in just executive session. We did instruct negotiators, and you were provided with legal advice. I think item 12, there was a report from Rick. But it's,
You've received the report regarding House Bill 20.
Yes, I think we want to continue with discussion on the House bill that was just brought up.
And I do think we should identify that House bill.
Yeah,
Is
so-
it
so
House
we keep-
Bill 20, or what is the House Bill?
it's House Bill 2011-51.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, Rick, could you just give us an overview real quick for the public?
I'll come up to the. House Bill 20-1151 is a bill that would allow statewide transportation planning organizations, TPOs, and/or metropolitan planning organizations, MPOs, to, by resolution, declare themselves to be an RTA or have the powers of an RTA. In our case, here in the metro area, that would mean that if PPACG so declared, we'd have some overlap of membership between a new MPO RTA and the existing Pikes Peak RTA. So that overlap might cause some concern and confusion. So the board has some thoughts about that and how to direct negotiators to approach legislative representatives to address our concerns.
Yeah, so are there any concerns that anybody would like to state on this?
So just for public, there was a news story on this item, which we talked about already, but for public's interest, there was a news story on this item and indicated that this was introduced really sort of as a hammer, if you will, to get the rest of the legislature to find a statewide solution for transportation funding. And this is sort of the fallback plan that will be looked at if that doesn't happen in the near future. And it was set for a committee hearing on March 4th.
And yes, and my only comment here is that it does look like the state's unwillingness to prioritize transportation in the general fund budget has resulted in a lot of other tax requests or other options that they are looking at, and this is unfortunately one of those. We could avoid this had they simply prioritized transportation as they should. Mr. Vice Chair.
Yeah, I was going to say, obviously, anybody who sees me working around the house knows that hammers are dangerous and cause damages. So I would make a motion directing our attorney and lobbyist to indicate that the PPRTA is monitoring House Bill 20-1151 with concern, that our lobbyist and attorney can speak with Representative Gray, indicating that and expressing some of the concerns and issues before the March 4th meeting, And third, attend the March 4th meeting on behalf of the PPRTA and provide testimony regarding our concerns and possible issues that could be addressed to assuage or ease our concerns.
Second?
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this item? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. That passes unanimously. All righty, item 12, administrative actions and reports, legislative report.
That was 12.
Oh, that was 12. Okay, item 13, PPRTA member announcements. Any member announcements? Yes.
We're in the process of developing the 2020 PPRTA annual report to the citizens, like this is 2019. And last year we had a group picture of the board, so we'd like to give you a 1-month lead time notice to dress accordingly for your March 11 board meeting for a group photo.
He's talking to you, Mark.
I think I'm out of town that day, so superimpose me in later.
Any other member announcements? All right, seeing none. Item 14, we're adjourned.
And you got?
Does he want to keep meeting with me tomorrow after my meeting with him tomorrow?
Are you meeting with him?
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, because I could just send you what my availability is. But tomorrow afternoon